Okay, great.
Okay.
So you can see the title slides, right?
Yes, right.
Fantastic. Okay, hello everybody. Thank you very much for joining this session. Unfortunately, I'm not Chris, who supposed to talk about database project with Visual Studio and SSDT. But the session will be similar, but I will not maybe focus on the how we can work with SSDT and how we can work with SSDT and the project itself, but I will very briefly go through it and show you, the counterpart of build project and release instead of pushing the publish button in Visual Studio. Let me double check one more thing. Can you see? No, you can't see me actually. So let me start my camera.
Yes, we can see you now.
Oh, now
Great.
yes. Okay, great. Okay, so let me start. My name is Kamil. I'm living in UK, close to London, working in UK for Avonet as a group manager. I'm Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I'm speaking, blogging. Unfortunately, last year I haven't had too many opportunities to travel across the Europe, but I hope this will change soon. Fingers crossed. I have my own blog, which is secureplayer.net, where you can find some useful information about SQL Server and Azure services like Azure Data Factory, some Databricks, I think, something about the data warehouse in Azure and data warehousing in general, plus other stuff as well. Also, I started my YouTube channel, and in the blog, you can find also the podcast, which I started at the same time when blog started. So you can find, pretty interesting, I think, conversation with people from our market. So you can find the conversation with Uwe, who spoke just before me. So you can listen in these podcasts, or you can, if you prefer, read the transcript of our conversation. Okay, and as I said, YouTube channel, sometimes, it's easier to explain some steps showing them in video rather than writing blog post and explaining everything step by step. This presentation, the slides of this presentation will be available on my GitHub, so you don't have to, doing the screenshot of these slides. Okay, let's start with the main topic. So we'll be talking about the DevOps. It's very popular, phrase or word or topic right now. So there's a definition from the Wikipedia. I don't want to focus on this, but I want to just mention that DevOps is not only the Azure DevOps, which is the tool provided by Microsoft. Yeah, by the way, it was renamed like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly, from VSTS. So because Microsoft wanted also in that way, promote the DevOps approach across all the projects. So to familiarize people and teams with the concept. So basically, it's a connection of 2 or 3 words. Is like culture, people, automation, and tools. I added one extra. So this is DevOps. It's basically it should help us basically to achieve the automation and monitoring in terms of software development and deployment in terms of infrastructure and application area, okay, in the whole deployment cycles. Okay, but we are focused on the databases. We are focused particularly on the SQL Server databases, and so how to start with that. So if you're not familiar with SSDT and you're working with SQL databases, SQL Server databases, probably maybe you have some code scripts in the repository somewhere, in that or other format, in that or on other organization of folders, whatever. I've seen many examples, but actually you're right. We should start with database having in source control. So basically, we have to script our database and put it to the source control. Then the second step, basically, to build the DevOps for SQL Server database is to build a CI process. CI, which is a continuous integration process. So basically, very easily, you can imagine that your CI process or build process is simple, build solution in Visual Studio. Okay, this is the counterpart of what we'll do in Azure DevOps. So then the next step, if we build and project is fine, we can deploy that database to empty database. Why I'm saying empty database? Empty, I mean the new database instance, the new database, and then deploying all the objects or from the metadata of the project. I mean empty in terms of data. There's no data. SSDT does not support data. Okay. And then if you want, if you have time, if you have some requirements, you can add some more things, like you can add some data to the project, you can add some security to the project in that or other way. Unit tests if you want, and some other integration tests. But that's the goal. So basically, we want to keep and store our code of the database somehow and somewhere. So SSDT helps us with that approach. SSDT is SQL Server Data Tools. It's an extension to the Visual Studio, and it's completely free tool. Okay, it allows you to create database projects, which includes all the objects on the database level, like schema, store procedure, function, tables, and etc. and etc. Everything actually what is in the database project level, database level. So now you can very easily install it having Visual Studio. You can find SQL Server Data Tools SSDT under Data Store and Processing tile. So in this module, in this section, you can find SQL Server Data Tools. Take it and install. That's it. Then you will be able to create database project. Okay, let's move on to the first demo during this session. Because my goal of this session is to show you how to, firstly start with a fresh database project, set up it in Visual Studio, even using Git repository in Azure DevOps, and then show you how build that project, how we can, publish from Visual Studio. But at the end, I would like to show you the same steps, all the same steps, but building appropriate process, of course, very simple, but from end to end, build appropriate process in Azure DevOps using build and release pipelines. Okay, I hope that makes sense and would be very useful. Okay, so let's create Git repo in Azure DevOps, the completely new Git repo in Azure DevOps, and then I will create empty database project. And then, because this is very often the most popular scenario, import existing database from SQL Server. My SQL Server will be the local one, which will be the source of this action. Okay, so let me switch to my virtual machine. And here is my Azure DevOps. Okay, so I'm going to create new repository here. Oops, I click something else. So my repository will be GroupBy Europe, let's say. Okay, I'm going to add the README, and I'm going to add also git ignore file to ignore some files we don't care and don't want to put to the Git repository. I'm using the Visual Studio because this tool will be used in this demonstration. So create the repository, and now we have we have empty repository. So now I would like to open Visual Studio. In my case, it's 2019, and I clone that new repository. Okay. So I can use this button, clone repository. And then I just need to paste the URL here of location of my repository. So I have to clone, I have to click on this button, and this is my URL. I can copy that URL to the clipboard and paste it here. Okay, and this is my path to my repo. That's fine. and let's clone it. So now Visual Studio is cloning this repository to my local PC. And that's it. So we don't have extra things here. We just can see, two files that we have in our remote repository, which is fine. Now let me create the new project. Let me create new project. I have already SSDT installed on this Visual Studio. So when I try to find database project, you will see SQL Server database project, which SSDT, SQL Server Data Tools, offers us as a template for project. So now location for me will be this one, because this is the folder where I will keep and I will working with. And okay, and the project name will be Tozo Retail DW, because that database I will be importing to the project. Okay, let me create it. And by the way, in the meantime, if you have any questions, please put them to the Q&A section. I will take a look on them a bit later during the session when we will be waiting for some processing for release or build pipeline. And also I will back to them at the end of the session. Okay, we have our empty database project. Let me then import the existing database. I have here, this is my existing, let's say, production database. This is my local SQL server. So I'm going to import that database to my project, to my empty project. Okay. So I'm right-clicking on the database on project and then importing the existing database. Of course, I have to have access to the source server, which I want to import the database from. So I'm selecting or defining connection. I'm going to use already defined. And now I can click just start. Yeah. I'm skipping some steps and I'm not going to, explain all the steps in details because we don't have time. As I said, my goal is just to present you end-to-end how we can build everything. Firstly on local PC as a developer, and then how to set up the whole process using Azure DevOps. Okay. We imported database to the database project, and as you can see, we have some folders here, like audit tables. What is that actually? So those folders are schemas. Okay, so as you can see, DBO is probably familiar. You are familiar with the DBO schema, and then we have another subfolder, which is the type of the object. Okay, this is how I decided to structure and organize the folders. And then we have some files. Okay, let's have a look on one of the file. If I double click on that file, I will see the create object TSQL script. Okay, in this case, it's a store procedure. And we can see the whole script for that object, for that store procedure. For tables, there's a similar thing, but we have the window looks a little bit different because here we have also table design similar to that in SSMS. Okay, so you can basically change or design the table in this part, or if you prefer, you can change the script as well. Both those parts of Windows are synchronizing to each other. That's fine. This is how our database project looks like. Okay, and this is not only the the storage for the files. It's much more, because if I go to the properties, and I'm always doing that at the first time when I import the database, I'm changing. Let me change this one, and I'm changing this flag. This flag is treat transact SQL warnings as errors. Why I'm doing that? Let me show you that I can build the project right now, rebuild solution, and I should get some errors right now. let me go to the error list. Probably I will not see anything. Yeah, unfortunately, something wrong is with my Visual Studio, but I should be able to see some warnings, some warnings and mainly the errors here. Normally, you should be able to see it. Let me go to the output. So I have some warnings here right now. So that kind of warnings you should be able on the previous window. So when I double click on that, you will see that where's the problem with a specific or selected object, okay? Let me maybe open this one. So as you can see, we have a simple update to the DBO customer, but in different database, okay? So that database is not exist in this solution. So I have only one database project here, which is Contoso Retail DW, but I don't have the CRM. Of course, I can fix it by adding another database project like CRM for CRM database and make the reference between them. But that's not our goal during this session. So because that database was prepared for much more complex session, I'm going to just remove or exclude some of this store procedure from this object to just avoid this situation, these warnings. But let me back to the database properties actually. So as you can see, if we don't have that database in the target server or in our project, that might cause some issues, some errors. It might they might appear during the deployment, or even worse, they might appear during the execution when someone executes and run that store procedure, which would be very bad, situation. We would like to avoid this and basically, acting proactively here. So let me change that option, and automatically you will see that our warnings will automatically become errors, which is good in this situation because I would like to know that I don't have that reference, I don't have that object. And the same situation would be if we, refer to the object in the same database, in the same project, but that object would not exist. Yeah, so that's very important to know that kind of situation and basically raise them as an error. So now we have the errors here, which is good. Yeah, now I'm going to resolve those errors in a very simple way, just excluding, and I remember which store procedures they are, so I can just select them and exclude from project. Exclude means I'm excluding from this project, but the files are still there in the disk, okay? So let me now rebuild the solution. And as you can see, rebuild project successfully finished, okay? So now I don't have any errors, any warnings, and etc., which is good. Okay, so we built our project, we imported the project, we built the project looks good, we are ready to deploy that, okay? So we are ready to deploy, and so let's do that. So how to deploy that database? So I can right-click on the project, and here I have publish option, publish item in the menu. Okay, when I click that, and the publish database window opened, and now I can define target database connection. So my database connection will be, let me choose this one. Again, I'm deploying to my local server, and let me call it like 75 maybe, or maybe even better, 100. So that's my target database. Let me double check if I don't have this database. I don't have this database on my local server, which is good because we want to create the new one. And then we can generate script or publish. Generate script will generate the TCQL script, the differential script that allows us to bring the existing database to the state of the current of this database project. If the database doesn't exist, it will be also created at the first stage. Okay, so let me create that script to show you how it looks like. So this is the script, and we have some variables at the beginning. And then when I scroll down, you will see that we will have, scroll down, 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 down. It should be somewhere here. No, we have the database. Sorry, it should be probably. Where's the create database? Should be at the beginning. Yeah, create database, as you can see. Yeah, okay. So we have the create database, some alters, and etc. And then later on, we'll see create schemas, create tables, and etc. There's plenty of operations here, and we can see that the scripts already contains like almost 9,000 lines. Okay, we can click View Preview, and we'll see also, the readable text report for user. What will happen? What is going on in the script? So we can see that what will be created. For example, there's no change here because the database doesn't exist. So we're going to create the new one. Now we can actually execute that script against target server. Okay, so let me execute that. And this differential script has been executed. So now we should be able to have the new database created in my server. Okay, so we have this Contoso Retail DW 100 just created from Visual Studio from SSDT project. Okay, so once I again click this publish and select that, let me rename it again. When I generate the script or publish is actually to action. It's generate the script and automatically execute the script against target database, against target server. Okay. I just want to show you that, when I run this again, my script will be almost empty. Because there's nothing that has been changed since last deployment. Okay. So the script always contains the changes. Okay, that's why we call it like differential script or incremental script or migration script, yeah, or delta script sometimes. So basically, this always brings our database project. It always brings our target database, physical database, to the state of this database project. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Okay, let's go back to the slides for a while. So I've showed you how to create the Git repo in Azure DevOps, how to create this empty database project, and how to import database from server. Recently, I created SSDT tips, the free, let's say, module or course that you can sync up and get 8 emails from me, 1 per week, and you can find in there cheat sheets, some tips or manuals how to do some step-by-step. So if you're interested on SSDT and would like to learn more and get some free stuff, I would like to encourage you to visit this website and sign up for this. This is completely free, so yeah, so why not to do that? If you are interested much more, because this is for free, but I started pretty recently, like last week, I started my own online course, online training. So if you're interested about that kind of things and learn about SSDT much more, there's 9 modules in this course. I'm working right now on English version of this course, where you can find over 20 hours of videos, examples, and practical things. So you can take a look on this website, and there's a discount code for you if you want to choose that one. Okay, so let's go back to the release, how to deploy automatically. Before we do that, before we move on to the building something in Azure DevOps, let me describe how it actually works. So we have 2 things, okay? On the left-hand side, we have our database project, which is also called DAC. Okay, on the right-hand side, we have our target SQL server or target database we would like to deploy to. There's a few scenarios that we can use a database project or DACPAC files, which I will explain the next slide. But we'll be interested and focus only in one track, in one pattern. Okay, so you can create script, use SSMS to deploy it, but of course, this is not recommended approach because this is completely manual action. So also in the database, you can create a snapshot or build the project. Both of this action will result on building the DACPAC file. And the DACPAC file actually contains all the objects of that database project. So actually all the objects that we want to see in our target database, okay? And again, you can use the SSMS to deploy the database using that DACPAC file. But again, it's not recommended. So what we want to do actually is we want to automate the process. So we want to use something which is called SQL package exe, which is the application responsible for building that differential, that migration script that I showed you earlier in Visual Studio. Okay, so but of course we would like to automate everything, so that's why I would like to use PowerShell or maybe some extension task in Azure DevOps, and in that way I would like to generate differential script and deploy everything to the target database. Okay, so how it works. So how this database project works with and the DACPAC, what the DACPAC means, and how it's, this differential script is created. So as I said, we have database project and our target database. Then when we build, as a result, it will create DACPAC file. DACPAC file, as I mentioned, contains all the objects. This is very important to understand and to remember. DACPAC file always contains all the objects of database project or of database, okay? And then SQL package compares those two, DACPAC file and target database, and generates differential script, migration script, delta script, yeah? And that script is actually ready to execute against that target database that we compared to, okay? I hope that makes sense. This is a very important slide because often people asking me, what is the DACPAC and how to, create or generate migration script, what it should contain, and etc., etc. That only means that that's fine. I'm very happy to answer those questions, but that means that this slide is very important to explain and focus on and explain, because only that way we can understand how the whole process works, okay? And of course, we would like to automate everything with Azure DevOps. So the whole process that I described here, we want to cover with Azure DevOps. So this is when we come to the second part of this session, which is the demo number 2. The first part, which we already done, which is build our database project in Visual Studio. And then I'm going to create build pipeline, which will do the same, but in Azure DevOps. So it actually grab our project and compile using SQL, sorry, not SQL agent, using Azure DevOps agent. And then I showed you also during the first part how to publish from Visual Studio. But then in the second part, I would like to show you how we can do exactly the same, but using Azure DevOps and release pipeline. This time I will deploy for simplicity of this demonstration purposes. I will use as a target SQL server, I will use Azure DevOps. I will use Azure SQL Database, too much DevOps, as my target platform, okay? Okay, so let's move back to my virtual machine. So I showed you how to deploy from Visual Studio. Then let me show you how to build the project, the solution in using build pipeline in Azure DevOps. So first of all, we have to push this code to our repository, which is very simple with Visual Studio right now. You can just commit all. I don't have any unnecessary files. So I'm happy with that. And then I can push, I have this one unpublished commit here, as you can see, because I just commit means that I just push the changes to, not maybe push, commit those changes to my local repository. Okay, now I'm pushing these changes to the remote repository, which is located in Azure DevOps. Okay, this is fine. Let me use this one actually. Okay, it's pushing now, it's fine. So we should be able to see this code in here. Let me refresh the browser. And we have our Contoso Retail DW folder, which contains all the files that we have in our Visual Studio. Okay, now let's build the build pipeline. So I'm going to pipelines, and I'm going to create new one, new pipeline. I'm going to use this classic editor, not going to use YAML, because that's easier to understand how to build it, and that would be easier to show you what we need to do and what we need to configure. Okay, click next, and now I'm going to use one of the template. I'm going to use this .NET template because it's very similar to how we can build, .NET projects and solution from Visual Studio. So I'm applying this, but I will remove some steps that I don't need for database projects. So like NuGet, I don't have any NuGet libraries there. So I'm leave this build solution. I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to remove this one. Okay, so I need only 3 steps, 3 tasks. So first is build solution. So this is the counterpart of our action when we click build in Visual Studio. So it's actually doing the same. Using MS Build application, it will get all the code, all the files, and validate them and build. So as a result, we'll get DACPAC file, which we'll see in a minute. So few configuration, few fields here. So I'm going to use the latest version of Visual Studio. I'm not going to pass any MS Build arguments. If you want, you can add these things. Build platform and build configuration, these are variables defined here. As you can see, it's a release and any CPU, the same information, the same configuration you can find in Visual Studio, right? By default, as a build configuration, we have debug, but this doesn't matter and it will change nothing. So that's fine. And that's it. Then as a next step, I'm just copying the files which we will find in this bin release folder or subfolder. We are copying them to the target folder, which is artifact staging directory, another variable defined for Azure DevOps agent. And this folder will be used as a source for the next task, which is publish artifact. So publish artifact, grab all these files from here and publish as a one artifact, which is actually zip file in the cloud. Okay, so this is it. Let me maybe also flatten all the folders to have very simple flat structure of those files, because we have only 3 files as a result. Okay, we can change the name of this on this build pipeline. GroupBy Europe CI, like continuous integration, and then I can save and queue. Queue means run this process, run this build. Okay. In the meantime, when this process is running, I will show you one more thing: how we can automate the triggering of this process when someone like developer push some changes to the repository. So when I edit this again, you can set up this option in this tab, triggers. So you can enable continuous integration. So every time when someone pushes some changes to the main branch, which is our only one branch here right now, but you can define some others, and also you can define path filters, which will be scanning for changes. Every time when the changes happens to this branch, this build is will be automatically triggered. Okay, so I can save this change as well. It will be helpful for our next exercise. Okay, let me go back to the pipelines and see what is going on right now. So the build is going on, is running, agent is working, and let's have a look what is going on here. So as you can see, the MS build is compiling the solution, including our only one project. And then as a result, we have the files like this, okay? So those files has been copied in the next step to the staging folder, as you can see here, and we wrap up all those 3 files to the artifact, okay? And that's it actually. The build successfully finished, successfully completed. So now we can use this build. We can use this artifact which contains a DACPAC file to deploy that to the target server. I have 17 minutes left, I think, so it's good timing, I guess. So let's do the next step. Let's build the release pipeline. Let's release this to my target secure server, this time in Azure. So let me show you that I'm going to deploy. Let me maybe duplicate this tab. And I have already my SQL server in Azure created. So this is the one. It's called Secure Player Database Windows.net. This is the whole entire name, unique across the Azure, and we are going to deploy to this server. Yeah, I don't have Contoso Retail DW100. So that would be my target database. Okay, I have the original one here. So okay, let's do that now.
Just a quick note: the next session starts in 45 minutes, so you have a bit time.
Okay, cool. So I don't have to be in rush much.
Right.
Okay. So let's build the next pipeline then. So we have releases here where we can build the new release pipeline. So let me show you how to build it. So this time I'm not going to use any template. I'm just create the empty job, and then let's call our stage, our environment. So in my case, I will have only one dev environment, but very easily we can then create another one here. Okay, so I have my dev environment. Then I have to select artifact. So the artifact is here, built by this build pipeline. Click Add, and that's it from this perspective. Now I'm going to edit this dev stage. Okay, so when I'm clicking on this agent job, now I'm adding the new task, and because I'm going to deploy to Azure database, Azure SQL database, that's why I'm searching for that kind of task here, because we have a specific task for that deployment, which help us a lot. Means it's covering all the actions using SQL package behind the scenes. So basically doing the same action like we do in Visual Studio. So actually in Visual Studio, in Azure and in Azure DevOps, we don't have to know tremendous knowledge about SQL package. it's good to know how it works and how kind of parameters it can accept and etc. But using this task, basically at the beginning of our journey, we can start like that. And that's my goal actually, to show you that the process is not very hard to implement. Yeah. So let me add this one. And by the way, this is provided by Microsoft, so and maintenance by Microsoft. So I've added this task, and this is only one task we need to use in this release. So I have to select my target subscription. Let me double check which subscription is that. Is that primary? Okay. And then I'm using SQL Server authentication, and my server, my target server is this one. So I'm copying this server name and pasting it here. Okay. The database, my database is Contoso Retail DW _100, as we had in my local server. Okay, then login. I know that I have login like Kamil and my password. And to keep it safe here, of course, we don't want to paste or keep or store the password in plain text. We want to use the safe method of storing that password. Yeah, so let me define this as a variable in Azure DevOps and define this variable here. Okay, so this is the variable, and I can click here to basically change this variable, change this type of this variable to secret. In that way, no one will be able to see the value. And this is not the password, okay, for this server. I'm going to copy that from that password from my key vault. It should be, no, this is not the key vault. It should be this one, not show, just copy the password. And because it's safe, I can paste it here. Yeah, so you're not able to see this password. When I save it, it will be saved securely, and no one will be able to see this password. Even in the log of the DevOps agent, it will be anonymized. Okay, let's back to the task. So I've provided the password. Now the deploy type. We have three actions here, but we are interested to the first one. On the first one, SQL DACPAC file, because we are interested to deploy the database from the DACPAC file. But as you can see, the task is also prepared to execute some script file if you prefer, or you can put the body of the script actually in the text box here in the text field. But we are going to use DACPAC file. So the DACPAC file is in my artifact. This is name of this artifact. It doesn't matter what is the name. And this is my DACPAC file. Okay, so I'm selecting this. And now I'm interested in one of these action. I'm interested in publish actually, but I just wanted to show you that there's much more actions in here available, because those actions are available in SQL package. Because actually behind the scenes, this task will execute SQL package application, which is responsible for all this work. Okay, so obviously all the information about these actions, parameters, and etc. you can find in Microsoft documentation in the internet. So let me. So there's another field like publish profile. I will back to this in few minutes. And also you can provide some extra or other extra arguments to the SQL package application. Of Of course, you need to know what kind of arguments are acceptable here, and this also depends on what kind of action we are going to run here, okay? And that's actually it. We don't have to configure anything else, so we are ready to go. So let's let me name this this pipeline. This is my CD process, continuous delivery, and now I can actually save it. I think I didn't forget anything. So now let me create new release and deploy that first, our first build, our first version, our first release to the target secure server in Azure. Okay. We will back to this in a minute. Now the whole process is started and is being executed this task. I will back to this in a minute because it will take about 1, maybe 2 minutes. So I will take a look on the Q&A section, Q&A window to check if you have if you ask any questions, and we'll back to this in a few minutes because also I know that this will fail. Why? I will explain in a while. So let me check. We have some questions here. Okay. Is there any way to have files listed in the database project file sorted that the developers can merge in Git the changes, avoid the conflicts? Way to have files listed. What do you mean by listed? Actually, the files are listed. Okay, maybe I know the question. I've got you. So basically, the database project contains all the list in the list of the files. Let me show you maybe that very quickly. So this is my solution. This is my project. When I open that in File Explorer, let's say, this is my project, and like for every single project in Visual Studio, it contains all the files, right? So I'm not sure if that was intention of your question, but it contains all the files that we have in our database project, okay? So of course, if you have any conflicts due to the Git repository or any other repository, you have to resolve them as you know, working with the plain text as for any other files. I'm not sure if I answered this question thoroughly. Okay. How you will connect to CI/CD, the CI/CD pipeline to deploy in on-premise server? What's the best strategy? So in my opinion, that's a very good question. Thank you, Antonio. That's a very good question. So in my opinion, the best strategy is actually to install Azure, so your custom Azure DevOps agent in your on-premise you know, networking. And in that way, you have full control what is going on in your environment, and then you can configure the Azure DevOps to connect to your agent. Yeah, so the agent will be installed on your local environment, on your local network, and Azure DevOps actually connect to this and cooperate with this agent, and the agent actually execute all the steps that you configure in Azure DevOps. I hope I answered this question. How to speed up a build of SQL project on Azure build server? How to speed up build on, I have in my project around 10,000 tables, 10,000 views, and etc. And the build from scratch takes 40 minutes. Wow. In Visual Studio, the build is much faster as it uses some cache for the objects. Actually, that's true. You don't have control of what is going on and how powerful the agent is. So again, you can build and customize your own Azure DevOps agent. So that in that way, you can define how powerful will be the machine underneath. So I think that would be appropriate option. I'm not sure if you can, buy or customize the agent in other way. I'm not sure about this, so sorry if that might be the other option, but I'm not familiar with that. Thank you for that question as well. And is there a way to manipulate the generated migration script before release in the pipeline? The scenario I would like to solve is altering temporal tables with already existing entires, which leads to an abort in the migration script. Yeah, working with temporal tables is not easy thing. And answering to question, yes, there is a way how you can semi-control what's happening, what happens in the migration script. I will show you that in the next minute. So maybe let me switch back to the demonstration. I will back here to the questions, to the other question after the demo. Okay. So okay, let me close this one, and let's go back to the agent, to the release. So as I said, I expected this error here, and this is intentional. So let's take a look what the error is. So here we have the error. So a project which specifies SQL Server 2016 as the target platform cannot be published to Microsoft Azure SQL database. Okay, that's the reason. And that's true. Actually, I have, if we back to Visual Studio and the project, my project has been imported from SQL Server 2016, because that's version of my local SQL Server. If we take a look in here, as you can see, this is my target platform. It was set up like this because I imported from my local SQL Server. So I have two options how to resolve this issue. First, I can change this target platform to Azure SQL database if my target platform will be always Azure SQL database. Okay, so I can change it, save this change to the project, and that's it. That error will disappear. The other option, though, is to ignore this option, ignore this target platform. Okay, so let me show you that by publish profile. So if we preparing publication to the target server, like I showed you before, so this is pointing to my local server, but I want to save this information, the target server, target database, and much more, which I will show you in a minute. I would like to save all those information and settings to the profile. So save profile as, and now I'm saving this, and it's saved as a XML file. Okay, this XML file contains everything what I need if I would like to, restore all the settings, like target server, target database, and much more. Here I have this advanced button. Okay, it's a little bit hidden here, but it's very powerful. So if I click here, new window will be opened, and I have 4 tabs here. So I have general, drop, and ignore. There's plenty of options here that I can control, semi-control, let's say, behavior of SQL package, which actually at the end generate the differential script for me. Okay, so one of these options is this one. This is the parameter allow incompatible platform. Okay, so here I can define that I don't care what I have in my target platform set up for this database project. So in that way, it doesn't matter which will be my target platform. Either it will be Azure SQL database or maybe other SQL server version. Okay, but of course you have to be aware of this, that you are going to ignore this this parameter, this target platform parameter, and it's your responsibility to have knowledge about what kind of features are available on each specific version. Yeah, so I can check this one and save this file to the profile, and then I would like to use this profile to use these parameters, this setup, all these parameters that's saved here. I would like to use these settings in my publication. So of course, if I publish or generate a script right now, it will get all this information from this published profile. But I would like to use this published profile in my Azure DevOps release pipeline. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. So first of all, I have to, and because I have time, so I will show you how to do that, how to use this published profile. So first of all, I have to stop ignoring this file, because right now it's ignored by this git ignore file and definition. So let's go to the folder. Maybe I will use this one. Show me all the files. I should be able this, or maybe not. No, I'm not able to see this git ignore. Because it's here. Okay, let me open that with Visual Studio Code. And then, because the file is ignoring because it contains publish XML as a suffix of the name of the file name. Okay, so let me find this. Yeah, so we have it here, as you can see. So I want to stop ignoring files that match to this pattern. Okay, that should be it. Now my file is marked as to be added to the Git repository. Okay, so now I've changed the git ignore. I'm going to add this publish profile, and I'm going to change this database project. Okay, publish profile with target platform to be ignored. Okay, this is what I want to push. Okay, and now, because if you remember, I configured continuous integration in my build pipeline, when I push those changes, automatically my build should be triggered. Okay, let's double check that if that happened. So I pushed the changes or not? I'm pushing. Yeah, okay, push the changes. Let's go to my build pipeline. And now it's actually running, yeah, which is good. Now let me double check one more thing, because I would like to actually have this file in the bin folder, so it should be copied to the output directory. So unfortunately, I forgot to change this one. If I want to have this published profile in my output folder. So let me push this small change again. Publish profile in output folder. Okay. Cool. So unfortunately, another build have to be triggered. This has not been finished yet. I hope, so I'm not going to cancel it because it should be finished in few seconds. Yes, it's almost finished. It's done. Yeah, okay, cool. So another one has just been triggered, yeah, with the new change, publish profile in the output folder. So in that way, let me refresh this page. This one is still running. Why? Should be finished now. Okay. Okay, it's now finished. So now the next one will be run. Okay, so now this the artifact should contain also the publish profile, which in the meantime, let me configure our release pipeline and add usage of this publish profile in my task. That won't be such easy, or maybe it will be. Let me just copy this because I don't have my build finished yet, so that's why I can't see this file here yet. But if I change the name, it should be like this. I believe this is the correct path. Save it, double check, maybe the pipeline finished, so we will double check that to not wasting time. And in the meantime, let me take a look on another question. So yeah, so answering the question around how we can control the migration script to be created. So actually, those are our options that we can use, and we can control the migration script. I don't have as much experience with temporal tables as I would like to have. So I'm not sure what you need to change or what you need to control in your migration script. But of course, you can take a look on these options and check what kind of option would be available and helpful for you in this scenario. Anyway, also you can add some extra task before the actual release, before actual publish action, to generate the whole script and put it in the log, for example. Yeah. So and then review it manually to make sure that the script is safe and and it will not broke anything. Okay. So similar action to what we have in our release pipeline. Let me go to the release again, edit it. So similar action to what we have in here, but instead of publish immediately, you can deploy a report or deploy or generate script. So that script, if you generate that, you can print to the host, and then or send maybe to some email if you prefer, and then review it manually and decide if the script looks good. Yeah, and then put the manual intervention between those two steps, and someone who will be responsible to approve those changes must review the script and then approve or reject the process. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, let me, in the meantime, then we have double check if we have this path well defined. Should be this fine. Yeah, so I have OK disabled. That means I'm trying to put the same value to the field, so the path is correct. So that's the way how we can overcome this issue and this error. Yes, I've set up ignore option, and I've saved it in the publish profile, and now I'm providing this publish profile to my release. So let's create another release and try to deploy that database to the Azure. Now it should be fine. So it will take a bit longer because it will create database and then it will be deploying all the objects one by one. So it will take about 2 or 3 minutes. I can use this time, and I'm happy to do so, answering on your questions. So team asking, what is a good approach to managing data changes during deployment? During the deployment, adding a new column can be conducted only once when the publish action detects that is missing. But if we, for example, want to update a new column to contain the email domain based on the existing email address column, what is the good system to make sure those scripts are only run once, not on every deployment? Very good question. Thank you for that, team. First of all, our goal is to update some columns, some newly added columns. So we can use post-deployment script. I didn't discuss and describe this yet during this session, but you can add one pre-deployment and one post-deployment script to each database project, and those scripts will be injected to the migration script. But team is right, because the post-deployment script and pre-deployment script is always executed. They are not built, they are not validated, and etc., and they are always executed. So basically, you can use some, your own custom TSQL script to check if that, column has been updated or something like that. I know this is not ideal situation. This is not ideal scenario. But the other one, if you prefer, and if you have more actions like that, and probably you have, you can use some existing tools like, let me check what was the name, that allows you basically to execute the scripts once, like you do with the migration approach. Flyway, yeah, it was Flyway. Flyway, so you can use the framework like Flyway, which actually is very easy. So it's control what kind of scripts has been already executed against your database, and keeping all the history and etc. So it's very easy to work with that tool to control what has been executed. So you can use this one in few days. Just after the Microsoft Build event, I will publish on my YouTube channel the very short video, 5 minutes video, how to do that, how to use Flyway in a very easy scenario. Okay, so I encourage you to take a look on my YouTube channel in few days. I'm going to show there how to configure and how to use Flyway to actually exactly execute each script that you provide only once. Okay. What rollback strategy can you use with this deployment method? Very good question. So actually, you can. Okay, let me. So first of all, actually, we need to remember that once we finish deploying the database, that's it. Yeah. So there's basically, if you are okay when you finish deploying, that's fine. You just move this database to the new level, to the new version. Yeah. So of course, there's very long discussion about this topic. So I don't want to go crazy here, but I will try to just simply answer this. So depends on when you would like to roll back the changes for this database, yeah, you can create the snapshot before you deploy the database. That would be one of the options. The other option, if you are worried about, you know, what is going on, what is prepared in the migration script, and you are not sure if the whole script will be executed correctly, you can always roll back the whole transaction during the deployment, or at the end of the deployment, or during the error happens, okay? So, but it's not enabled by default. So if you want to wrap up the whole differential script, or almost whole differential script, in one big transaction, you must use another parameter or option that is available in the publish settings. This parameter is here. So include transactional scripts. Okay, so this actually generate the migration script very similar, but adding some extra blocks that control control that each block, if that happens correctly, or you know, executed successfully or not. And at the end, it can you know, roll back the whole transaction if you are not happy with that. You know, and as I said, it depends on the scenario when you would like to roll back those changes, because it's not easy. Yeah? So if you release everything, and if you commit the transaction and you'd like to roll back the database for some reason to this point, or to the point before you start deploying, you actually have to have appropriate strategy in the company, in the project. Yeah. Can you please provide a bird's eye summary on how the whole workflow works? I'm somewhat confused with demo 2 and how the whole artifacts pipelines releases framework works. Thanks. Sorry that you're confused on this part. I hope that I had hoped that I was clear in the slide here, how the SQL package generate the migration or differential script, and that's why we are building the DACPAC file and etc. I'm not sure if I can add anything else here, but I would like to encourage you to maybe sign up for the free tips that I push on my website. Maybe in that way to answer you some question, and if not, yeah, reach out me after the session or send me an email. I will show my contact details at the end, so I can maybe explain something
correctly.
better.
The question was more like how the artifacts are connected to the releases, and the whole pipeline works from checking in the code, building and deploying it.
How the artifacts,
how it's all connected, like you check in the code, the artifact is built, the DACPAC is built, and how the deployment pipeline and the release is connected to the build process.
Okay, understood. Okay, so first we build our build pipeline, which actually wrap up all the files from the database project, and it creates the artifacts. Artifacts is stored in the Azure DevOps, and then when we create release pipeline, the actual release pipeline is using that previously created build pipelines, which contains the artifact. Okay, oops, not this one. So so here I'm providing the artifacts that I will be used in my release. Okay, and the artifacts is coming from this build pipeline. So I created my build pipeline. It's called GroupBy Europe CI, and it contains all the artifacts. So let me maybe show you how the artifacts looks like. When I go to this build pipelines results, here is my artifact. I have only one artifact because I created one only in my tasks. But this artifact contains, it's called drop. So in your, as a result of your build pipeline, you can create more artifacts than one. So it's up to you. But always, almost always, I prefer to create only one and wrap up everything in this one artifact. And here in this artifact, you have, sorry, in this file, you have one artifact which is called drop. And this drop contains all the files here. So I'm using this file. Actually, I'm using this DACPAC file in the release pipeline because this DACPAC file contains my current version of code, my current version of database. Okay. And so this is how the artifacts are collecting and stored. And in release pipeline, I'm using that artifact because I configured that in here. So of course, if you want to configure more artifacts, you can add more. And here in my task, I'm using this path to the artifact, okay? So by default for agent, the agent using this default working directory as a directory for all my artifacts. And then this is the alias for my artifact that I defined here. As you can see, yeah, okay. This is my alias. So it's subfolder in my location. And then let me go back here. And then I have this, yeah, this subfolder, and then this is the drop, actually subfolder in this artifact, and then all the files that I have there, yeah. Okay, sorry guys, I have to finish in 5 minutes because I have a session with my client. Actually, I'm working today. So I would be happy to answer all your questions, even after the session finished. But let me maybe show you just at the end that we have this release actually deployed and finished. So when I click here, you can see that this time the whole release pipeline actually deployed that database. As you can see here, this is the target database and target server in this point, and actually it's creating all the objects in here. And let me prove that even more, that we should be able to see this in the list. Yeah, so this is a newly created database which I have to remove in a few minutes. Okay, let me back very quickly to the slides. Apologize that I can't answer all the questions, all the other questions. There's another 3 or 2. Back to the slides. Oops. Okay. And yeah, we are almost finished. So SSDT offers much more, not only the database project, but also the database references. So in the same solution, you can create more database projects and reference between them as on your normal SQL server. You can use variables, which I didn't cover during this session. I showed you how to use publish profiles, at least a bit. And you can also add some pre-post deployment script and much more. But unfortunately, it's only 1 hour. And we are already like almost 19 minutes of this session, which I'm happy to do. But unfortunately, I have to finish. So I have on my SQLplayer.net blog, I have a dedicated site for only SSDT, which I'm updating from time to time. So if you like to see more and read some useful information, blog posts, not only on my blog. So I would like to encourage you to visit this site. And also, if you have any other questions, apologize that I cannot answer other 2 questions during this session, but please reach me out via email address or on Twitter. I would be more than happy to answer all the questions or even have a conversation about your problems or difficulties that you are facing with. Okay, thank you very much for having me on this GroupBy conference. I hope this session would be useful for you, and yeah, have a good evening, have a good day. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really good stuff. Really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, guys.
So let's just, with a few sessions back to back, let's just take a few minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes bio break. And I see Damia's already here.